Hey, everybody. This week I wanted to talk about something that I honestly don't hear too much talk about, and that is using drones for wildlife photography. And you might think, well, but they're noisy, they'll scare things. Drone cameras, and it's something that I don't hear people talk about very often, is drone cameras have wonderful zoom capability to it, which means you don't have to be close to what it is you're going to film. Now, again, if what you're trying to film are deer and they're under trees, this is going to be difficult, right? You're going to be in an area where they're probably going to hear it. But again, if you're in an area where there's deer and you put your drone up and you let it just sit in the air for a while, let them get used to the sound, right? Which sounds like a bunch of bees anyway. Let them get used to it before you try to do your photography and before you try flying around too much with it. But the other thing you can use it for is bird photography. For example, if you know where there's a nest of, let's say, eagles. I was looking at an eagle, bald eagle, and its possible nest last weekend. And you're trying to get a picture of that, staying at a distance and having that zoom running will help you get your best pictures. But, and here's the caveat that you need to talk about when you're doing any of this nature photography for it and you're concentrating on your subject, you want to get a visual observer. Now, a visual observer is the person who's going to keep an eye on the drone for you, right? This is required for any first-person drone. I mean, that's just a given. If you've got a first-person drone, you're looking through your goggles, you have no idea what's going on around you, and you need to have a visual observer to keep track of your drone and let you know if there's a problem. In this case, what you're doing is you're paying attention to your subject, but at the same time, drones can be attacked by birds. They might consider them to be a threat, and they might attack it. And you're not going to see that if you're concentrating on the nest that you're trying to get a picture of. In addition, you're trying to get a picture of an eagle's nest or some other large predatory bird, and they see that drone, they may take it as a threat and want to attack it. So having a visual observer will help quite a bit with that because they'll know what's going on. And again, typical for it is, remember, birds can drop from the sky very quickly, but they cannot rise quickly. A drone can. So shooting a drone up when a bird's coming at it, up and away, will cause the bird to have to reverse course and then have to really work to catch up with the drone. So you can get your drone up and out of the way and moving at a pace that the bird probably will not match until you can get it to a spot where you can bring it down safely. But keep that in mind. If you're, it is counterintuitive. If a bird's diving at your drone, you're not going to want to bring it up, but you do. You want to bring it up and away from the bird so that you don't injure the bird or the drone. But if you're going to have a visual observer, you're going to have a way to communicate with that visual observer. Now, they could be right close to you, and they could tap you on the shoulder or just call out. But it might be a good idea to have one or two visual observers looking at it from different angles, especially if a visual observer can't see all the way around the drone, right? If there's a blind spot, for example, you may want to put another visual observer out for something like that. If you're going to do that, I would recommend that you're going to go get a GMRS radio. Now, they don't necessarily require a license, but getting a license for it is very simple. It's kind of like a CB with a limited number of channels, but better range. And most of them have either the capability of, or they come with an over-the-ear rig with a microphone so that you can easily talk back and forth to each other. Some are push to talk to in order to do that. I think there are some that are voice activated, but don't quote me on that because I haven't seen anything like that in the in the inexpensive range. So it might be in the higher range stuff. And when I say inexpensive, you're talking about 40, 50 bucks for a pair of radios. So you get a couple of pairs of those. So you've got a backup. And now you can have 2 visual observers and yourself. And this allows you to have a view of the drone while you're concentrating on getting your pictures. Now, of course, if you're going to take pictures with it, you're going to have a commercial license anyway. You already know what I'm talking about with the visual observer, but I just wanted to point out that you could get some very beautiful wildlife photographs, but you always have the risk when you're doing that of somebody coming at your drone. If you can divide your attention evenly and see the drone easily from where you are between what you're doing, flying the drone, and the nest or whatever it is you're trying to photograph, more power to you. I would like to have a visual observer around just as a backup, all right, just as somebody else who might spot something that you didn't catch because you look down at the screen to go see if you get to the photograph you're looking for. In the meantime, a bird pops out of nowhere and comes cycling down towards your drone to get it out of the way. I have had that issue at my home when I put the drone up. Not so much that the bird wanted to attack the drone, but more the bird was just curious about the drone. And even a curious bird can be a danger because if they get too close or they move in the same direction that you're trying to move the drone into and you collide, your drone's going to come down and you may kill the bird and you may take out your drone as well. So always be careful and mindful when you've got your drone up in the area where there are birds of what's going on. But that doesn't mean you can't use them to photograph a bird's nest, because think of the advantage that you get with a drone. You get that zoom factor to it, so you don't have to be right on top of the nest, but you can be above the nest, right? Something that you may not be able to do in regular circumstances. Get above the nest and be able to shoot down into that nest and see the babies or see the nest itself with the birds sitting in it. It gives you a huge advantage as to what you can do. But again, it's very easy for you to get lost in concentrating into doing your videography or taking your photographs of that subject and lose track of the fact that there might be something in the area that the drone has upset and is willing to take the drone out. So if you're going to do that kind of stuff, my recommendation is get yourself a good pair of radios. I like the GMRS type. You can get a license for them very simply. I think they're better than walkie-talkies. They don't have if you're familiar with the old walkie-talkies and the huge antennas, those are a thing of the past. These have a good range to them, a good antenna. They've got much different frequencies than we were using for the old walkie-talkies. They can go up in the UHF frequency range, and you get a decent distance off of them, off of some small wattages. And you're not going to need much because your visual observers are not going to be that far away from you. But this will give you a way of communicating quickly and easily, just getting it done and letting the other person know that there's something going on they need to attend to so that you can move your drone and pay attention to your drone at that point and move it in a way that keeps it out of danger, keeps it away from a tree, a bird, whatever it needs to be. And that'll allow you to be a little bit more flexible in what you do, because there might be something that you just can't see from your angle. But if they can get to an angle and see the bird and see if it's getting too close to a tree, for example, then you're all set. While you have to see your bird with regular eyes or just glasses. That doesn't mean your visual observer can't zoom in on it with a pair of binoculars to give you a heads up from a completely different perspective. Visual observers don't have to be the same type of visual observation where they're helping you guide the drone and having to use the same naked eye, if you will, to see it. You're using a visual observer for a completely different purpose here, and that's just to make sure that as you're navigating through some foliage, for example, they can be away so that they're not going to scare whatever you're photographing, but at the same time get a feel for where the drone is and give you a heads up should there be a problem. Now, that visual observer is not going to be one who's going to be replacing your eyes. You'll still need another visual observer, but it gives you some flexibility. And like I said, these radios are inexpensive. They have a good range to them. Just make sure everybody's on the same channel and know what to do, and you're all set. And that's what I got for you guys this week. And I will talk to you all next week.